Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel NPA Discovery. Today's story is not just about Hollywood success. It's about identity, control, belief, and the quiet strength it takes to start over when the world thinks your life is already perfect. This is the story of Nicole Kidman. At first glance, Kidman's life looks like a fairy tale: international stardom, an iconic marriage, red carpets, awards, and global admiration. But behind that polished image lies a far more complex journey, one marked by sacrifice, emotional isolation, and a long road toward reclaiming autonomy. Before we begin, if you enjoy deep, thoughtful documentaries that go beyond headlines and explore the human stories behind fame, please like this video, share it with someone who loves meaningful storytelling, and subscribe to the channel. Your support gives us the motivation to keep creating content that values depth over noise. Now let me ask you an important question. Was Nicole Kidman protected by fame or quietly constrained by it? Did her most famous marriage elevate her or slowly erase her voice? This video does not exist to accuse or sensationalize. It exists to understand. A childhood between worlds. Nicole Mary Kidman was born in Honolulu in 1967 to Australian parents temporarily living in the United States. From the beginning, her life existed between worlds, between countries, cultures, and expectations. Her father was a biochemist and psychologist, her mother, a nursing instructor and feminist advocate. Education, discipline, and independence were emphasized early. But when Nicole was still young, her family returned to Australia, where she grew up far from Hollywood glamour. As a child, Kidman struggled with a stutter. Acting became her refuge, not for attention, but for control. On stage, she could choose her words. She could breathe. She could exist without interruption. This detail matters. Many performers are drawn to acting not because they crave visibility but because they seek agency. Ambition without illusion. By her teenage years, Kidman was already working professionally in Australian film and television. She was disciplined, focused, and unusually serious for her age. Fame was not the goal, craft was. Unlike many young actors, she did not chase Hollywood immediately. She built her resume deliberately, choosing roles that tested her emotionally and physically. This early grounding would later become essential. Because when global fame arrived, it did not come gently. Meeting Tom Cruise, a collision of orbits. Nicole Kidman was just 22 years old when she met Tom Cruise on the set of Days of Thunder in 1989. Cruise was already one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood, globally famous, tightly managed, and surrounded by an infrastructure designed to protect his image at all costs. The contrast was stark. Kidman was talented but relatively unknown. Cruise was a brand. They married quickly. To the public, it was a glamorous union, the rising star and the reigning king. To Hollywood, it was a carefully curated spectacle. But power imbalances do not disappear inside romance. They simply change shape. After the fall, reinvention, risk, and the courage to be seen again. When Nicole Kidman's marriage ended, it did not simply close a chapter. It dismantled a structure. For over a decade, her personal life, public image, and professional choices had existed within a carefully managed orbit. When that orbit collapsed, Kidman found herself facing a terrifying freedom, the kind that comes without instructions, without guarantees, and without protection. And yet, this was where her most remarkable transformation began. Why reinvention requires risk. Many actors rebuild their careers after public upheaval. Few do so by choosing the most uncomfortable path. Kidman could have leaned into romantic leads, nostalgia, or safe prestige projects. Instead, she pursued stories that examine trauma, power, sexuality, and identity, often from the perspective of women society prefers not to examine too closely. This was not accidental. Psychologists often note that after periods of emotional suppression, people feel compelled to reclaim authenticity even if it costs approval. Reinvention is rarely tidy. It involves experimentation, failure, and exposure. Kidman accepted all three. A career without a safety net. Another crucial shift occurred quietly but decisively. For the first time, Nicole Kidman was no longer attached to a protective public machine. She did not benefit from shared branding or institutional insulation. Every decision, good or bad, would be attributed solely to her. This kind of autonomy is often romanticized. In reality, it is terrifying. Success would be hers alone. So would failure. But Kidman did not retreat from that responsibility. She embraced it. A real-life example, when systems collapse. Across industries, not just entertainment, we see similar patterns. Employees leave corporations built on rigid ideologies. Individuals exit relationships governed by unspoken rules. Members walk away from belief systems that once gave meaning but no longer allow growth. The collapse of a system often feels like failure. But it is also opportunity. Nicole Kidman's post-divorce life illustrates this truth with uncommon clarity. Love, reconsidered. Eventually, Kidman remarried. Her relationship with musician Keith Urban stood in stark contrast to her earlier marriage. It was quieter. More reciprocal. Less performative. Importantly, Urban has spoken openly about his own struggles with addiction and recovery, subjects that demand humility, accountability, and emotional transparency. This mattered. For the first time, Kidman partnered with someone whose strength was not rooted in dominance or image but in vulnerability. That difference reshaped everything. A partnership built on choice, not orbit. Kidman and Urban's marriage has endured not because it is flawless, but because it is negotiated. They live across continents. They manage careers independently. They support each other without subsuming identity. This is not romantic fantasy. It is adult partnership. And it reflects a woman who has learned through loss what she will no longer surrender. From muse to architect, power, aging, and the refusal to disappear. By the mid-2000s, Nicole Kidman had accomplished something rare in Hollywood. She was no longer merely surviving reinvention, she was directing it. Where many actors rebuild their careers by aligning with powerful institutions, Kidman chose a quieter, more radical path. She became an institution herself. Stepping behind the curtain. At a moment when most actresses are encouraged to protect their image above all else, Kidman did the opposite. She leaned into authorship. She began producing. This shift may appear technical, even bureaucratic, but in Hollywood, it is transformative. Producing is not about vanity. It is about control, control over stories, casting, tone, and most importantly, whose voices are heard. For a woman who had spent years inside systems she did not design, this move represented a turning point. She was no longer asking for permission. She was deciding. The tension between privacy and influence. Despite her public work, Kidman remained fiercely protective of her private life. This balanced visibility without exposure reflects hard-earned wisdom. Having lived through periods where her personal life was treated as public property, she chose intentional boundaries. This did not diminish her influence. It strengthened it. True authority does not require constant revelation. It requires discernment. A woman at ease with complexity. In interviews during this phase of her life, Kidman speaks differently. She is more measured. More reflective. Less eager to please. She acknowledges contradiction without apology. She speaks openly about fear, aging, motherhood, and uncertainty, not as weaknesses, but as realities. This shift in tone signals something profound. She is no longer performing strength. She is inhabiting it. What power looks like after survival. Power, after survival, looks different. It is quieter. It is selective. It is grounded. Kidman no longer seeks dominance or validation. She seeks alignment. Her choices, creative, personal, professional, reflect an internal coherence absent in earlier phases of her life. This is not transformation into someone new. It is return to someone original. Reclaimed voice, legacy, choice, and the power of becoming whole. By the time Nicole Kidman entered the later chapters of her life and career, something unmistakable had shifted. She was no longer running from anything. Not from her past. Not from her choices. Not from the versions of herself that had once felt lost, constrained, or quietly diminished. She had arrived, not at perfection, but at ownership. And ownership changes everything. The difference between fame and authority. Fame is visibility. Authority is authorship. For many years, Nicole Kidman possessed the first without fully claiming the second. She was seen everywhere, admired globally, and praised endlessly, yet her story was often narrated by others. Studios. Media. Marriage. Systems larger than any individual. Her later life represents a rare transition, from being interpreted to being self-defined. This is not a transformation driven by rebellion. It is driven by clarity. Looking back without rewriting history. One of the most striking aspects of Kidman's public presence today is her refusal to demonize her past. She does not speak with bitterness. She does not seek vindication. She does not recast herself as either victim or heroine. Instead, she contextualizes. This is the language of someone who has processed, not erased, experience. She acknowledges love where it existed, constraint where it existed, silence where it existed, and growth where it was necessary. That restraint is not weakness. It is mastery. A broader cultural lesson. Nicole Kidman's story resonates far beyond Hollywood because it reflects a reality many people recognize, that you can be intelligent, capable, and accomplished, and still find yourself shaped by systems you did not consciously choose. That influence does not always arrive as force. That control does not always announce itself. This arc matters. Because autonomy is not something we are granted. It is something we reclaim, often slowly, often imperfectly. Strength without spectacle. There is no dramatic confrontation at the end of Nicole Kidman's story. No villain vanquished. No speech delivered. No curtain call. There is simply continuity. A woman who continues to work. To choose. To protect what matters. To contribute without surrendering herself. This is not cinematic resolution. It is something far more meaningful, integration. The quiet power of saying no. Perhaps the most radical act in Kidman's later life has been her comfort with refusal. She declines roles. She sets boundaries. She speaks selectively. She withdraws when necessary. In a culture that equates visibility with worth, restraint becomes power. Kidman demonstrates that you do not need to be everywhere to matter. You need to be aligned. Motherhood, legacy, and continuity. As a mother, Kidman has spoken about her desire to offer her children something she had to learn the hard way, the permission to be fully themselves without performance. Legacy, for her, is not about inheritance or fame. It is about emotional freedom. Breaking cycles quietly, without spectacle, without announcement. That may be her most enduring achievement. Why her story endures. Nicole Kidman's life endures in the public imagination not because it is flawless, but because it is honest in retrospect. She did not escape difficulty by avoiding it. She moved through it by engaging with it. She did not burn bridges, she outgrew them. And in doing so, she offers a powerful model for reinvention that does not rely on reinvention at all but on return. Return to voice. Return to instinct. Return to self. A final, empowering reflection. So what does Nicole Kidman ultimately represent? Not a cautionary tale. Not a redemption arc. Not a symbol of triumph over others. She represents something quieter and far more difficult, the courage to evolve without erasing who you were. The strength to leave systems that no longer fit. The wisdom to build a life that feels true, even when it looks different than what the world expected. Her story reminds us that power is not dominance. It is choice. And fulfillment is not found in perfection. It is found in alignment. Thank you for staying with this story. If this documentary gave you a deeper understanding of fame, belief, and self-determination, or if it resonated with your own journey, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support allows us to continue creating thoughtful, long-form stories that respect complexity and honor human experience. Until next time, trust your voice. Protect your autonomy. And remember, becoming whole is not a moment. It is a practice.